I'm Ashley Jones from Designs and Machine Embroidery, and welcome to this week's Software Success. I'm so excited to be here with you. If you are new joining our Software Success live presentation, we talk all things Dime software on the first and the third Tuesday of every month. And at some point, I will make my way through all of the Dime software. So each month, we're taking it step by step. But the nice thing about this particular live is that we talk about a particular piece of Dime software each month, but a lot of the features that we're using are things that you can apply to your program. So if we're doing something that I know will work in the other Dime software, then I try to make sure to mention that. But the tools from the software and some of the features are in multiple pieces. So just because we're talking about one particular piece doesn't mean that it's not educational for all of you, or maybe you're just trying to get an idea of some of the Dime software, which is perfectly fine too. I love my software and I want you guys to love it as much as I do. So if you haven't already, tell me where you're watching from. I see you have tons of people piping in as usual. So good to see all these familiar names and tons of places throughout the U.S. I see we've got Southwest Georgia. We've got Florida. So I'm from Florida, but look at my background. Do you notice something is different today? I am in the home office in Dallas, Texas. So we are doing some specific training here. So I'm broadcasting from the home office, which is actually kind of cool. So West Virginia, thank you so much for joining. Laura, Arlington, Texas. I'm close to Carolyn here in Dallas. So thanks for joining, Carolyn. Down East Maine. So thanks for joining, Sharon. So we've got Ohio. I see Missouri. Kirsten, thanks for joining, Kirsten. She is our friends at embroidery.com. So thanks for joining, Kirsten. So good to see everyone. Peter, welcome, Cleveland, UK. Middleborough, Cleveland, UK. So thank you for joining. So we are, I guess, worldwide today. Sunny, Florida. Jan, good to hear. I'm in Texas, not as sunny here today. So I'm missing my Florida sun. So yes, so you're very welcome. Jan said also, thanks for the lives. You're very welcome. We enjoy these. This was an idea that Dime came up with, Eileen and her business partner, to make sure that everyone gets the education that they need to use their software to its fullest. So hello from Alabama. Thank you for joining. That's my old stomping grounds, born and raised there. Ohio, Maryland. Bet, my friend from Arizona. Thank you for joining, Bet. Mary S. Larson. She is a frequent flyer. Thank you for joining, Mary. She is also really great about answering questions on our Facebook group. So you'll probably see Mary over there as well. Dawn, thanks for joining. Dawn, she is from Creative Applique, so thanks for joining us. So I see Fort Lauderdale, also not very far from my home. So I think we got tons of people here. So thank you for joining. I think we've kind of halted here. So let's get started with our topic now that I think everybody is joined. So today we are doing the second part for making freestanding lace with Dime's My Lace Maker software program. So if you didn't see 2 weeks ago, then check that out. But I will kind of do like a little bit of a recap if you didn't get to see that live 2 weeks ago on the getting started with My Lace Maker, because it's really easy. And just a reminder, if you haven't been here with me for Software Success, if you have a question, ask by putting 3 question marks or a couple of question marks before you actually start typing your question. It just helps me pick it out of the lineup. So, oh, and Esme, I see she is from South Africa. Thank you so much for joining. So I'm so glad to have you here. So put those question marks. It'll just help me pick out your question. I like to try to make sure that I answer all of the questions during the presentation. And then if you ask a question right before we end and I don't get to it, I do try to go over to Facebook and answer. But I found out 2 weeks ago that I can't go back and answer if you're asking on YouTube. So I do definitely want to try to answer your questions while we are live. So make sure you get those in and then let me know, if I miss it. Don't feel bad about asking it again. We're all here to learn our software and get proficient at our software. So ask again. I don't think anybody would mind if you ask the same question twice if it didn't get answered. So today we're going to go a little bit further in depth on My Lace Maker. And this program will allow you to create custom freestanding lace without knowing how to digitize freestanding lace. So we're going to talk about custom shapes. We talked about built-in shapes last time, which I'll do a little recap there. We're also going to work from a background. So you can import an image, which will allow you to trace, and then you can create your custom lace shape, and it can also fit a garment, which is what I'm going to show you how to do. And I'm actually going to import a piece of third-party artwork. So if you have SVG files or EMF files, DXF files, PLT files, or FCM files, those artwork files that are vectors, we can read those into our software, which means that you can then use them not just in My Lace Maker, but any dime software that will allow you to read in those artwork files. You can use those to create designs. So I have a few things planned out for you today. These are some of the examples that we're going to talk about, but I'm going to import artwork from an outside source, and then we're going to use some of the built-in things as well, and then we're going to trace a shape. So make sure if you've got questions, you're asking over there in the chat. So let's head over to the software and let's take a look at getting started really quickly with the lace frames, and then we will talk about doing those more advanced features. So this is a very easy software to use. So just to recap, last week we used the built-in lace frame. So that's this heart shape here. You can choose from any of these lace shapes. And in the preview, we had an image of that cute little flamingo on a napkin ring. So I'm going to scroll down here and see if I can find that guy in my animals. And then let's talk about turning that into lace and making those cute little napkin rings if you want. So this is a 5.75 inch tall, and I don't think I would want that on my napkin ring that tall, but maybe 4 inches would be okay, or even 3.5, but I'm going to go with 4. So over here in my properties, I just entered the exact size, or remember from, previous videos, we can click and drag these corner boxes and it'll resize proportionately, and that's the same in all of Dime software. Now I'm not quite at 4, so I'm going to go ahead and enter in that exact amount and click apply. And now if we want to create this as a freestanding lace piece, we just need to add the grid. And remember, you have the option to add the lace grid, which is going to hold everything together, or you can add the lace grid with a border, which is what we have for those cute little napkin rings that you saw on the ad. And of course, flamingos, well, they're pink, so let's make that the right color. And on the example you see, you might have noticed that there's a little eye here, and you can do that simply by using your drawing tools. So you can draw an ellipse and then choose that artwork, click and drag, and then convert that to your stitches. So we have the option to have just like the connector column, a run stitch here, or either the artwork. So those are your options there, but you can just turn that into the column stitch. And because it's such a small circle, it looks like we filled in that circle because it's really just on the outside there. So that's an easy way to do it. Now, if you have another of Dime software that will allow you to create a satin stitch or a fill stitch, you certainly can do that as well. But inside of My Lace Maker, those are our stitch options that we just converted to. So that is the flamingo that was on the napkin rings. Now, the napkin ring itself was also freestanding lace, and it's really easy to create something like that. So a rectangle. So these are our drawing tools. I'm going to just draw a rectangle. And now you can choose, what size you need your napkin ring to be. If I remember correctly, it was about a 5-inch length and about 1 inch wide. So for those that I made, I need to uncheck my aspect ratio. So there's my 5x1. And that's going to loop around my napkin to hold that. And then here we're going to do the same thing. Remember, fill it with a grid or the grid with a border. And so we've got that as our freestanding lace there. Now on this one, I've made these napkin rings before. And what I did was I actually tightened up the lace grid. Now we don't have the option. The lace grid is the lace grid. That's what you get. And it is specifically created for this program. And this particular grid is digitized so that it won't fall apart when you rinse away your stabilizer for freestanding lace. But you can adjust the density of that grid. So over here in your settings, I'm going to increase my density, which means I'm going to make it tighter, but I'm going to reduce that number. So look at that density number as a distance between the stitches. So if it's a smaller number, then the stitches will be closer together. So let's make it a 2 millimeter, and look how dense that freestanding lace is now. It just makes it more, it looks more like a fabric rather than a really open freestanding lace. And that's a personal preference. You can make it anything that you want. Now, to make this clasp, I actually drew an ellipse on one end. So you just click and drag that circle. And I did overlap because I want to make sure it connects. And then I just turn that into that column stitch again. So I drew the artwork shape, and then I click one time, and it's now the artwork loop. And for the other end, to kind of make a faux clasp, although it does work, so it's not really faux, I just went through this particular library of freestanding lace designs and was just searching for something that would work like a cat clasp. So like this leaf would work here. Something, you want something that is a little bigger on the end so that when you slip it through that opening that it would hold together. This one, like I see actually tons of things that would work for these examples. And so really it just depends on, what look you're going for, or maybe what you want to use there. So let's go back up. I'm going to choose that little leaf here. I think this would work great. Either one of these would be fine. And so this little shape here, I'm going to rotate it around, and I'm going to put that on the bottom here, and just make sure you overlap so that it'll hold together when you rinse it away. And let's make that all the same color. And in fact, let's make it all, I'm going to select everything by dragging a box around it. And then I'm going to do a right mouse click on the green color here. And now when I stitch this, I can just slip that little leaf shape through that opening to hold my napkin ring together. And for this, I have made a set of these where you can actually glue this if you want. So let me group this together, and we'll put them over on top of each other. And you can glue it if you want, or you can do something like a magnetic clasp. So your little flamingo here would be attached to your napkin ring. So how cute, right? And if you didn't want that green to really show through, you certainly could do the same thing and kind of tighten up that density of your flamingo if you like. So let's do 2 again. I actually kind of like that density. There we go. So we wouldn't see as much of that. So that's kind of a recap of what we did 2 weeks ago, where we used built-in shapes from the shape library and the built-in lace designs, and then the artwork, all those things together to make that cute little lace design. So isn't that adorable? And there's so many things in here. Like I could see for the little dragonfly would make a cute little napkin ring. I could see tons of other little things in here for holidays, summer. There are all kinds of fun little shapes in here that you could use to make some really fun napkin rings out of freestanding lace. So just choose your topper, make your napkin ring, and stitch that out on your sew and wash stabilizer by Exquisite, and you've got that beautiful freestanding lace. So okay, now let's talk about, so that's the kind of the recap of what we did last week using the built-in things, but let's talk about if you have a shape that is not built in, what we can do. So there's 2 different things I would recommend. The first is importing a shape. So I'm going to do File and Import Artwork. And I have a shape that I've already saved here. So this is a hot air balloon design that I found on the internet that was a royalty-free image. And this is a 3D bow that I have made before that is a cut file. You make it out of paper. But because I own the artwork file, I can import that into my software and then just convert that to lace. But let's work on the hot air balloon here, because it requires a little bit of adjusting, so we can talk about the different things here. So this hot air balloon has the different parts of the balloon, but I'm actually going to remove those. So this is an artwork file. So I'm just going to select those pieces and press the delete on my keyboard, or you could do cut, and that will remove that, because I just want my freestanding lace to be this open shape. And then we have each of these for the strings that hold the basket, and then we have the basket here. So I'm going to select everything. So either click and drag a box around it, or you could do Control A is the shortcut there. I'm going to head over to my transform option and I'm going to resize it. So remember, in all Dime software, you can click and drag these corners, or you can click and drag the top, the bottom to resize unproportionately, or the sides. These diamonds here, these actually will skew your design. So if I do like this, it skews the design to whichever way you slide it. So now it looks like our balloon's being blown by the wind, right? So I'm going to do an undo. And then let's go back over here, and I want to make this, let's say 5 inches tall, because just 1.5 inches is pretty small, and the lace will be, you know, not as prominent. And so I just did an undo because I accidentally entered just one measurement and I didn't have my aspect ratio checked. So I want to check that maintain aspect ratio. And then when I increase my height to 5, it will automatically adjust the width so it maintains that ratio of the entire design. So now I've got a 5x3. Now this design is one that I found on the internet. I looked for a free, royalty-free vector file, and those you can import into your software by choosing File and Import Artwork. And once they're in the software, they actually work exactly like the shapes that are built into the software in the frames. I just select it, and then I can click whether I want it to be a grid with or without a border. So that's pretty cool, right? And then I'm going to change that color there. Let's make that color maybe this, well, I want to change the black. So right now it's pulling from color number 21. Now this works the same in every Dime software. It's pulling for the chip number 21. So if I do a left mouse click there, just a regular click, I can actually change the color of that chip. And so then it changes that color for me on the screen. So now let's do the basket. I'm going to select the basket and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to just click the lace grid, and then let's make, that's pulling from the same color. So I'm going to select that and let's make it this brown color. So if I want to change the color chip that it is pulling from, it's right now it's pulling from the chip number 21 again. I can do a right mouse click with it selected on 7. And now my basket is pulling from that color number 7 chip there. So really easy, right? So then our strings here for our balloon, I'm going to select each of one of those. Now I'm going to hold down my control key. Remember when we were selecting and we hold down our control key, that allows us to select more objects. And you can see that my my cursor has the plus next to it. That's letting me know that I can just click and add these objects. So I've got 4 of the strings selected. Now for the strings, I have a couple of options. I can convert to this column stitch, which is your satin stitch that you probably would recognize. And now that's blue again. So I'm going to do a right mouse click on this black color chip to change it. And if I zoom in so that we can see what's about to happen next. So you can see that my satin stitches are stitching on top of the balloon, but I would really prefer if they stitched first, so they would be behind the nice finished satin stitch of the balloon. So if I select them over here in my sequence view, so I just clicked on the sequence view, which is the 3 lines. We call that a hamburger menu also because it's layered like a hamburger. So click on those 3 lines for your sequence view, and then I can select at one click those black strings there. And then I'm going to click one time to send this to the back. And it's just like that underneath those stitches. Now there is enough overlap, so that's going to hold together so that my balloon would stay together all as one design. Now there's another type of stitch that this could be. So built into the software, we have this rope connector stitch here. So I'm going to zoom in so you can see what that rope connector is. So instead of the satin stitches, I actually like this a little bit better because it looks more lace-like. So if I click on the rope connector, look at that. Isn't that cool? So that is a particular stitch that's specific to Dime's My Lace Maker that looks like a one-line version of the lace grid. So that's a really, I think, cool stitch here. Now we do have something extra here. Up here at the top, this was a piece of the design that came in with the artwork, and I don't feel like I need that. So I'm actually just going to delete it. I didn't notice it before, but I noticed it once we had it turned to stitches and I could see it right on top of there. But isn't that cool? I actually love the look of that rope connector there for the holding the basket to the hot air balloon. So isn't that cute? Now, I think that's cute just by itself, but the whole idea of freestanding lace is that a lot of times it's embellished with tons of different designs. So let's go in our lace library again, and I want to scroll down and just kind of point out some things. Remember a couple of weeks ago I did mention that these lighter colors here, those are parts and pieces of these darker designs. The darker design is a full lace element that you can use and stitch out just as they are, or you can use the individual pieces, but that's where all those little parts and pieces come from. And this one is kind of shaped like I need, so let's try that one. So I think that's great. So let's rotate that around. I'm going to use my rotate here on the screen. I can just click my icon and it'll flip it a 45 each time I click. And let's resize that. Everything in the software is resizable. It's all native to our software, so resizing is perfectly fine. So if I resize that, it kind of with that one design really fills up my balloon. Okay, now let me show you how you can edit. So I'm going to make this a little bit darker color, and then let's zoom in over here so that I can remove. So I want to remove this part of the design so it's not hanging over my basket and my strings there that connect my balloon. I'm sure those have a technical name. If you have any hot air balloon flyers out there, you can tell me the technical name of those strings over there in the chat. Okay, so I could have very well in my library, this design is made up of all of these individual pieces here that follow the design, but I don't want to, it's already almost done. So I don't want to build that whole design because it's perfect for what I need. I actually just want to remove this piece. So it's easier to use that and just remove part of it. So what I'm going to do over in my sequence view over here, I'm going to actually lock the basket. I'm going to lock the balloon, and I'm going to lock those strings so that, oh, I hit them instead of locked them. So lock. So this means that no matter what I do, I can't click on those and I can't select them. The only thing it will let me select is this part of the design here. So if you select the design and click ungroup, that will allow you to edit the design in smaller chunks. So here I can select these different pieces, and I could do the same thing and hold down my control key and select a bunch at one time. And then I'm going to press the delete on my keyboard. So just delete, and that is gone. But we have lots of other things here too. So I can click and drag a box around it and then press the delete on the keyboard. And it's deleting what it can. I don't want to accidentally grab part of the design that I want to keep. So that's why I'm having to click more times to get this deleted. Because if I were to select, undo, see, I just select something I shouldn't. But if I were to select this big of an area, it will probably select part of that little flower there. Do you see those, how they're highlighted? And I don't want to accidentally delete those. So it just requires a few more selects and deletes, which is perfectly fine. Now this outline here, we talked about this last week. Each one of the built-in designs have an artwork outline around them so that you can cut out that shape behind your grid if you want. Now I'm not going to do that on this shape, so I'm just going to delete that piece of artwork. And I can tell that it's artwork and not stitches because when I zoomed in, I didn't see any stitches, but over here in my sequence view, if you have any concerns, you can just look here and it says artwork. So if I click that and press the delete, then I know that I'm only deleting that artwork and not the stitches. So let's scroll back up here in our sequence view, and I'm going to click on that design again, and I'm going to resize it just slightly smaller just to get that flower a little bit further away. And look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? Oh my goodness, that would be such a cute little ornament, or I could just think of so many things. You could stitch that right on something. What do you guys think about that freestanding lace balloon? So next I'll show you how to import an image, but let's answer some questions about this before we go on to the next demonstration here. So I'm going to kind of back up here and see if we've got any questions. Tons of people still joining. Thanks everybody for being here. So so glad that you can join each of these software success lessons. So Maria says here, can this software be used by itself, or do you need other software for it to be able to be used? And so Marie, this software can be used by itself. In fact, all of Dime's software are all standalone. Now, if you own more than one piece, it really does, increase the power of your program because it puts all the features together. But every single one of Dime's software that we have, you can use on its own. They're all standalone, but when they work together, it just makes them that much more powerful. So in this one, yes, true, it can be used standalone. So really good question. And then I noticed that one of our team members answered that. Thank you so much that it can be used alone. That's really helpful. And I appreciate our team member helping because then that makes sure all of our questions get answered. So, okay, so Linda Johnston here says, will there be additional lace designs that will be added later as a package for the lace library like you have for the font packages? I don't know of any at the moment, Linda, but man, is that a great idea. So I'll make sure to kind of tuck that in my back pocket and share. So that's a really great idea. There's so many now that are built in that you can manipulate and edit. But I definitely think there's always room for growth. So that's a great question there. So Reen Wilcoxon, thanks for joining, Reen. You guys know Reen. She's the owner and the creator of Embroidery Garden. So and she loves her My Lace Maker too. So, and I know she does. So thanks for joining. And yes, Jennifer Alexander, she's a frequent flyer, does answer a lot of our questions too over on our Facebook group and says, yes, I'm in Dallas. So thanks for joining. And so this question, is that Richard says, will the balloon strings hold up as freestanding lace? And yes, they will. If you do the column stitch, it will hold up. Or if you do the rope connector, both of those will hold up. Obviously, the rope connector, you can see that on the screen, it's daintier. And so it is going to be more, I don't want to say fragile. It'll still hold together, but it's not going to be as rigid, to hold that shape, but it still will hold up. And I think that looks really cute. And sometimes it's nice to have something that has a little motion to it, right? And Candy Hatch says, can I buy the lace add-on separately? You absolutely can. So My Lace Maker is a separate program. You do not have to have any of the other programs to make it work. And everything I'm showing right now, you can do with My Lace Maker. So absolutely, it is available separately. I always like to refer you to your local dealer. They can give you a really great deal on any Dime software. So if you go to our dzgns.com website, we have a store locator or dealer locator. So you could always find a local dealer there. So, and then we have a Facebook user, so not sure the name, but it says about the napkin ring, when you put it together, isn't there a delete or hidden stitches or something like that in edit? So about the napkin holder, when you put it together, isn't there a delete hidden stitches? Oh, I think she's referring to the create hole, maybe. So you can confirm that, Facebook user, or he or she. But I think you're referring to the remove the overlapping stitches. Basically, it's cutting a hole behind there. And absolutely, now I've already deleted my artwork that would allow me to do that, but that's this option right here that would allow you to put it behind. So if I go back over here, if you do the create hole, I don't think it's going to do as good of a job because it's going to try to put stitches behind the top of the head where it overlaps. And I'll show you what I mean. So if I do create hole, it has added stitches, and actually it didn't do this because it, I guess, hung off so much. So if I select this and I've got this group together. Remember, we have to ungroup. And I just want to choose the lace grid and then this. So let's see what happens. I'm not opposed to trying on screen, but it won't let me do it because I don't think I have that artwork shape here. And I'll show you what I mean. So let's go back over and then let's just grab a shape here. And what do I want to do? So maybe this cute little dub here, and I'll fill that. If you wanted to put a design over top of it, it needs to have this artwork shape around it. So if I draw the artwork shape and take that, put it over, and then select the grid, then I should be able to create my hole. And it's not letting me. What's going on? So I tell you, I've done this before plenty of times. Let's convert that. Let's copy, paste that, and convert that to our lace grid. And let's ungroup this and select just our grid and see. So Here's our complex fill of our grid, and then there's my artwork, and there it did it. I didn't have it ungrouped. So here, when I create my hole, it then cuts out, let's hide our heart. It cuts out that hole from behind. So my dove was not ungrouped, so it was selecting everything, and you just want to select the complex fill for that to work. So I knew I was missing something. See, it happens to all of us. Okay, so any other questions before we go on and see how you can create your own shape, your own freestanding lace shape? Okay, looks like we're good. So let's go and create a new page. And let's say there's a shape that you need for your garment. You're trying to fit freestanding lace to a certain area. And that's not a shape that we have built in, and it's not a shape that we can really purchase. So we have to trace or create our own shape. So I'm going to use a built-in backdrop. So File and Load Backdrop. The backdrop is an image that you can bring in and just trace on top of. It won't be part of your design. So let's go to my dime folder. So see, under the C folder and the dime folder, you have this backdrop option, and this gets installed when you install your embroidery tool shed. So these are some backdrops that are built in that you can play with. Now I usually create a folder called My Backdrops and put my designs in there. But let's work with this front pocket of this denim jacket. So you can practice this because this is built into your program, and just kind of play around and, you know, duplicate what we're doing here today. So I did File and Load Backdrop, and this works with any image. Any raster image will work just fine, and this allows you to trace. So I'm going to choose my pen tool up here under my artwork. So from this drop down list here, I'm going to click the pen tool, and then I'm going to just trace this pocket. Now I'm not going to worry about being perfect. I'm just going to be quick. So I'm just clicking the major points here. But if you are doing something a little more intricate, you might want to make sure that you are, you know, making a really nice shape. And then let's click on our backdrop here. If I click in the open space, this works for all dime software. When you import a backdrop image to trace on top of, if you click in the open space, your properties over here to the top right will change to your backdrop icon. So if I were to click on that artwork shape that we just drew, you can see how my properties, and it says artwork right there. So I know what I have selected. So if I click in the white area, this is my backdrop option. And I'm just going to lighten that up so you guys can really see what we're doing on top. So now you can see my shape a little bit better that I drew. And I failed to do one crucial step. So I'm going to actually select this and delete it because it actually is null and void now. It doesn't even matter that I traced it because I forgot to tell you one step. When you import a backdrop image, you want to make sure you define the scale. So over here to the left-hand side of the screen, my backdrop tool here, I can use that flyout menu underneath and then choose Define Scale. And then I choose a point on my image that I can enter the measurement for. Well, luckily here we have this measuring tape that I can mark a 1-inch area. So, and I don't have to do 1 inch. I could do, you know, 4 inches here. But however far you click and drag, you click at the first point, you drag to the second point, and then you release, and it'll say, how long is that? And that is a 1-inch area. So we actually were almost exactly on the money with this image that we imported. So I wouldn't have been so bad if I had continued on and failed to scale my image. Okay, so now let's do that again. And so let's do our pen tool. So under our artwork tool and pen option, I can trace. So I'm just going to click, 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 and click to close my shape. And now I can fill that shape with our grid. Remember, that was step number 1 of lace, is to have a shape. Step number 2 is to fill it with the grid, so we can do with or without border. So I'm going to do without border. And I'm going to select this and make that a lighter color, just so we can see the elements that we're putting on top. So there's our lace grid. So now I've created a custom shape by tracing an image. I want a buttonhole here. So if we go back to our artwork tools, and for a buttonhole, you can either draw a skinny rectangle, or let's go back and do a like an oval, a skinny oval ellipse here. And then either one of those, if I click on it, I can then turn that into a column connector stitch, or even here. And that's actually a little narrow, so I feel like I needed it a little bit wider there. But either one of those would work as a buttonhole opening here right on my pocket top. So let's do, I think I'm going to do the oval. I kind of like the look of that. So I'm going to choose my ellipse again. And now because we're on our image, let me zoom in. I can see how long that I want to make that by using my image as the reference. So I can click here and drag. And now I know that buttonhole is probably a little bit underneath that button, but I'll go right to the edge of it there. And then select my artwork and then turn that into this column connection stitch, which is our satin stitch. And then you could open that up with your seam ripper there. And of course, if you feel like it's not wide enough, you certainly could adjust that and give you a little bit more space there for your button to go through. So isn't that easy? And then you just slit that with your seam ripper and you've got a buttonhole. And it's going to be all held together with your lace underneath as well. If you wanted to cut out the grid underneath automatically so you did not even have to do your seam ripper, remember, we could use that artwork shape. So we want to make sure we have an artwork shape. So if I choose my ellipse again, this one doesn't have an automatic artwork shape. So I'll just draw another one and then choose the artwork and hold down my control key and then click my grid, and it allows my cut hole, create hole to open. And you can see then I have then removed that from behind. So you can do that if you don't want to risk something happening when you're using your seam ripper. So really easy, right? Okay, so now let's just put some decoration on here. So I'm going to go over to my lace library again and go to the bubble category, and I'm going to choose this option here. Now I'm just going to use this one and repeat it, but you certainly could use any of the built-in designs, or if you have designs of your own, you could do that as well. So I just did a copy and a paste. So click your copy and paste, and it'll make you an exact copy right on top of it. And then I'm going to resize that, move that up. And then if I select both of these, remember we can hold down our control key, which works in all dime software. I've selected both elements. I do the same thing, copy. It pastes them right on top, and I can tell I got two more because it'll pop up in my sequence view down here to the bottom right. And then I'm just going to do a mirror image, and then I can slide those over to this side. And if I hide my backdrop, here's what we just created. And the only thing I've got in here is that extra artwork that I used to create the hole. But now I've got a piece of freestanding lace that would perfectly fit my pocket that I could stitch out, and then I could sew that onto that pocket top. And so you've got a custom shape by tracing an image. So isn't that cool and easy? Now, there are, I mean, I honestly, I can't think of which one, but there are more dime software that can import a backdrop than not. So yours probably has. If you have any other dime software, if you see file and load backdrop in your list, then you can import an image and use that to either trace or design right on top of, so that you can make your design and you know it's going to fit. So I love that about the dime software. So that's creating a custom shape there. And so let's see if we have any other questions, and I'll show you guys one more thing before we go. So if you have questions, make sure that you are getting those in so that we can answer. So let's see here. And Sharon says, I was going to follow along on the software, but wouldn't you know, I'm doing an update and my internet is super slow. I can relate, Sharon. But the nice thing is, just like you said, you can watch the replay. They're on our YouTube channel. If you go to the category that says lives, past lives, you'll find those there intermingled with our Thursday Facebook Live that Eileen does each week as well. If you go to the playlist, you actually can see the folder that's just the software success. So I have, either way will get you there, but you can rewatch these. That's actually a really great point to make there. So, and I was just looking through here to see if we have any other questions. And so there was a big software update recently. It took my computer 10 minutes. It's a big one this time. So yes, so doing the update, if you're talking about Windows, some of theirs definitely takes a long time, but the update to our software, yes, if you are running a Mac version Ventura, we had a really awesome update that now everything works great with that version. So that is a really good point as well. So see if we have any other questions here. And so Dawn says, I think I need this software. It looks like I could play for weeks. And I agree, Dawn. Every single one of these really is fun to play with. And a lot of times I just play and I don't ever even get anything done. And so I think, if you check over Artie, the Warren, asked about the cost. So if you check over on our page, but I would definitely check with your dealer. A lot of times they can give you a better cost, but our team member put a link to the software in the chat. So you should see that as well. And then what formats does the software save in? Oh, Candy, tons of them. And so when I go back over there, I'll show you the really long list, but it is a really long list of options. So let's head back over in there and take a look at that, because I think I've answered most all the questions. So once you create your design, so here is our pocket top. If we were ready to stitch this out, you would simply go File and Save As, and then choose from this long list of machine types. So I'll just kind of do a slow scroll here so you can see, but just to read off some of the common ones that you probably would recognize. So Baby Lock, Brother formats in here, Foff, Singer, Elna, Viking, Genome, and many commercial formats as well. So tons of different options for saving. And even amongst those formats, there's many more in between that I didn't just read out loud because there might not be the ones that we recognize. So I bet we have your machine type covered, Candy, for sure. And then, yes, I see the question, will this be, there be a replay? Yes, all of our Software Success Facebook Live are have a replay. If you go over to our YouTube channel, the Designs and Machine Embroidery YouTube channel, and you look at the categories at the top, there's a category for lives. You can watch all of our past lives. There's also a category called playlist that actually organizes them into the playlist, so you could click on and watch all of the Software Success. So a great question. So Ardith, so thank you. She put her spelling, her is pronounced for her name. Thank you so much for sharing that. So Ardith, so thank you. Okay, so let's do one more thing before we are out of here. So I want to show you, I don't think I've mentioned this, in your lace library where we have all of these awesome lace options, we do have this category called examples. In this category, there's actually some designs that you can select and just have been created by some of our creative team members here at Dime, and we put them right in the software. So you can stitch those. I love the Model T car here. I've stitched that. That's awesome. And it stitches out beautifully. But I want to show you one other one that's quite useful, and that's these three pieces here. So Eileen, you guys know Eileen, the founder of Designs and Machine Embroidery. She created this adorable lace envelope. Now, what I just did, let me undo and talk through what I did here. So in my lace library, I actually selected all three pieces at one time. So remember, hold down your control key and you can click on several items in the catalog here. And when you click OK, it'll add all of them to your workspace. So now I've got this little envelope flap, and I have the back and the front here. And you would assemble this on your sewing machine. But I wanted to show you that you can edit this to make this a gift card holder if you want. So if I select all of the pieces here and resize, it's the width that I'm going to resize in this case, so it'll resize everything proportionately. And so for your little card, I measured mine, and I want to say it was like about a little over 3 inches, so I did 3.5. And now this is a size that would fit a gift card. In June, the summertime, we know that that's a lot of graduation time. So this would be a really fun gift card holder for maybe a graduate. So I ungrouped these three. And then I deleted the hearts. Now, the hearts are super cute. You could certainly leave them, but you could also put something that was relative to your grad. So if I go back in, oh, wrong button. Let's close that and go into the shapes. And in the shapes, let's see here. I know in one of these, we have a shape for graduation. So let's just click through here. And all of these can be used the same way. I just think it's always nice to have a little project that you guys can do for putting these together. And this is a really cute little gift idea. Also works great for other holidays as well, whichever you want, so that you need a gift card for. Now, I know I'm missing it. Somebody tell me if I'm flying by it here. So we reorganized these just recently, and miscellaneous. I should have known that. Look at that. So beautiful, so organized. So there is our little grad hat. So if I resize this, that's our mortar board. I can resize that to fit right on the back of my gift card there. And so let's fill this one. I'm going to do the same thing. Actually, I'm going to do an undo. So let's copy and paste this artwork shape before we convert it. Because remember, it's that artwork shape that'll cut the hole for us. So if I copy and paste, I'm going to leave it right on top of each other. And I could tell I've got two pieces over here now to the right. And then the second one, I will convert to our lace grid with the border. And now I'm going to take that and I'm going to slide that right over my back of my envelope here. So now to cut out that hole, let's zoom in and cut out that hole. So remember, to cut out the hole, I want to select the artwork and the grid. So I'm going to select the artwork, and then I'm going to use my select tool with my control key held down and select the grid, and then I can create that hole. So now I've got that graduation cap there, and I'm going to increase that density just so that, or make it tighter. So I'm actually reduce the number. So let's go down to, let's do 1.5 and then click apply. And it'll make it, it'll really just offset it really well from the envelope. And then I'm going to select our envelope, the flap, and everything. And I'm going to make that a lighter color because I might want to do that in like a silver and the graduation cap in a black. So if you stitch this entire design in your hoop, when you're done stitching, you're going to sew the flap to this part here. And what you would normally do, let me move this one out of the way. And actually, let me do undo, and here, and show you. So I would take this flap here, and if you rotate it around, I would use a zigzag stitch and stitch that right to my envelope there. Now, if you wanted to do that in the hoop, you certainly could. The nice thing about doing it outside the hoop is that you have that gap between the stitches, and so the flap actually will hinge like that folded flap. So it's really nice when you do it on the sewing machine. If you do it in the hoop, it's really dense, and then your flap will kind of stick out a little bit more. And then once you've stitched that, you would then take this part of your envelope here and stitch that on the opposite side, not the inside. It would actually be more like this. Let me bring this to the front. And so you would stitch this like this and just do a zigzag stitch right over that satin stitch. And then those 3 layers together in your sewing machine, you have a cute little gift card holder for a grad, or you could put another design there. So what did you think? Isn't that a cool idea? So I love having gift wrapping options always on hand. So yeah. And then Jeanette Yeager says, Linda Johnson, where do you find the time? So what is Linda doing that we have to find time for? So I can't wait to go back and read what Linda's up to. So, and then Marcia says, I just got PEP, and somehow I got my screen changed to pink background, but can't get it back. I thought I was changing only the area in my hoop since I was working. So was the backdrop feature you were using? So that's not what changes the screen color, but I can show you that. That's actually a great question, Marcy. So if I and back in the software here, this actually is for every dime software. So this will work for your Perfect Embroidery Pro as well. So down here to the bottom right, there's a few icons, and they have obviously specific uses. So the plus and the minus will actually add color chips, and the minus will take away everything that you're not using. We only have those two colors. And then we have the change palette option. So this will allow you, so I always have exquisite thread set because we have our exquisite thread by dime. But if you don't use exquisite thread, you can change all of your palette at one time. So if I went and say, chose a, I don't know, maybe an isochord, you see how it switches all of them at one time, and it'll automatically pick those closest colors. So that's what that change palette is. And then this right here, the set background color, that is probably what you click the change the background. So when you choose one of those colors, it'll change the background color. Now, if you don't want to import an image of your item, sometimes I'll change my background color to see what it's going to look like if I'm stitching on a pink garment or a black shirt or whatever. So down here in the bottom right, this little icon that looks like a computer monitor, that's how you could change that color here. And then we have a couple of other options here for inserting a trim and a needle change as well. And then the make current default and the reset default, that has to do with your color palette. So you can actually put a certain particular set of color chips on your color palette down there below. And if you put make current the default, it will always bring up those exact chips for you. I just leave it what it is. But if you ever want to go back to the default, the reset default will get you right back to that. So hopefully that helps you, Marcy, on your background option there. So, okay. So, all right, guys, any other last questions before we go? So tell me over in the chat, and then I'll head over and I'll show you what we are going to be doing in a couple weeks from now. Oh, I forgot I had these pictures. So look at these. So if you want to talk about some very awesome using artwork to create freestanding lace. So this is from Roy Garland. You guys probably have met him on Eileens Facebook Live on Thursday. He's also hung out with Joanne Banco on her Facebook Live before. But he is an artist, and he's part of our software development team, and he does so much more. Our network admin, all kinds of things here in our office, computer and technology related, but he's an artist. And he actually used My Lace Maker to create these beautiful freestanding lace, but he stitched on fabric, which you certainly can do, of the Wizard of Oz. Isn't that awesome? And that's a really cool way to use your freestanding lace. Shading is what he did, the tracing those areas of lights and darks to create that. Now, if Wizard of Oz is not your thing, tell me over in the chat, someone please, is there anybody out there that would like to have a lace Tom Selleck or maybe a lace Sam Elliott? So he also did those awesome images. And so I just think that's so cool. He is super talented. So what do you think about that? So Chris says Elvis, that would be a really cool one. He has done Lennon and Janis Joplin. I've seen those. He's also done Santa as well. And so, yeah, but I think those are super cool. So that's just, you could take your My Lace Maker to a very advanced state by doing some things like that. And so Jennifer Alexander, Roy is awesome. And I do agree. He definitely is. He is so talented for sure. And Reen knows Roy. Reen works with Roy as well. And so he did great job on Santa. I definitely agree with that. That was in a past Facebook Live that you could probably find in the Between Friends episode. So I just love those. So My Lace Maker is a pretty powerful program, even with just the built-in features for sure. So, okay. So in 2 weeks from now, you will see, or not 2 weeks, it's actually I think 3 weeks, because we have an extra week in May. So in June 6th, so that's the first Tuesday of June, you will see me again for Software Success Live, and we will be talking about My Block Piecer. If you are unfamiliar with My Block Piecer, it is the program that we have that will allow you to take a quilt block, an artwork quilt block, and then turn that into an in the hoop project. So it will create the stitches for piecing in the hoop. And I see that I have a discrepancy there on the day. So let me just look at the calendar to tell you for sure. So I have June the 7th down below, but I have June the 6th at the top there. It is June the 6th because it is a Tuesday. So I apologize for that error there on my slide. So I will see you in 3 weeks on June the 6th for the next Software Success on My Block Piecer, getting started with that program. So I can't wait to join you guys then. So until the next Software Success, I'm going to say bye for now, and thank you guys for being here.